Okay.
Oh, is it cool that I'm recording?
Yeah, absolutely. It just,
Okay, cool.
it's
Oh, you
spooky.
got that. Oh, gotcha.
My name's Faryn Pearl. I'm from New Jersey, and I always thought animation could be a hobby, a fun thing on the side while I was an academic. Turns out it's been a wonderful career. New Jersey. I don't know what else is there to say. I've been in the. What else is there to say other than nothing?
Other than your entire life, but
Yeah, where do I start? I think relevantly, I've been in the industry now for, Jim, can you believe it? Almost 10 years.
good Lord.
Almost. And I started out in production. I went from there to being an editorial board artist, essentially a storyboard revisionist on Home, The Adventures of Tippano, where I worked with Jim. And Jim helped me get in there in a very funny story that I have time for. Funny to him, scary to awful to me, embarrassing to me. Actually embarrassing to him too. I'm getting stuck. Then I went.
I'm gonna cut this out of the recording if that's okay.
Then I worked on Trolls World Tour for almost its entire practice or entire run. I then went to Big City Greens at Disney TV. And about 2 years ago, I started at my current project, which is an original unannounced feature film. So unfortunately, I can't say what it is. And I started there as a board artist. And then a couple months in, I got head of story. And then as of 6 months ago, I've actually been co-directing that movie. And that has been a wild ride. And outside of that, I like TV. I like TV shows.
What kind of things do you watch in order to get like the comedy brain going?
Oh gosh. Okay. So when I used to watch things that weren't reality competitions, I love improv. I love stand-up comedians. I think I could talk a lot, actually. I think I might want to talk a lot about how improv has been a really, really positive, helpful thing in both comedy boarding and life in general. But I think stuff like Whose Line Is It Anyway, you know?
When you were what's a little bit about of your comedy process like? Because I mean, were you always a funny person growing up?
I would argue so. One of my most fundamental memories is we did an acrostic in school, and we were supposed to put like F is for this, A is for this, or whatever your name was, and I did F is for funny. And there was a kid who yelled, "She's not though," and that stuck with me. And I've been doing a career in order to spite him. You know,
Yeah.
It's all been revenge.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think I've been funny. I've always liked comedy. I've always liked comics. Sunday morning comics have been a huge influence on me. Mad Magazine. And as I've gotten older, I realized, oh, comedy is the spice of life. I'm going to try to be more constructive than how I've been sounding so far. I think I'm being.
So
yeah.
So like, so comedy it's such a tough thing because it seems so nebulous and it seems so weird. It seems so like, when it's done well, it seems like magic. But I think we both kind of know it's not really magic.
No, because it does feel a little like I've been trying to think all week about how I was going to say this in a constructive, tangible way. Like, what is comedy, and how do you bring comedy to something? And while I think a lot of it is instinct and what you think is funny, because if you don't think something is funny, it's not, like, no one else will. That's the first step. Do you think something's funny? I think there are a couple different rules that you could use in your boarding, in your writing, in life. Everything I say is completely constructed and around, what am I trying to say? That I don't know. There are rules to comedy. There's rules to about honesty. There's rules about specificity, and I think there are ways to apply it.
Tell a little bit about honesty. Let's dig into that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think if you were to, I wrote it down really succinctly, so I'm gonna try to make sure I say, I think in essence, comedy comes from truth and specificity in character. It comes from what is the most truthful, honest way that this character, this person can answer what's specific about it. And based off what you know about that character, how does a character react in a way that either buys into your expectation, where they're in an unexpected situation and they do something expected, or how does that character react unexpectedly in an expected situation? And the other part I think is a lot of comedy is just contrast.
Hmm.
and surprise, doing something unexpected.
So like, do you have a character like O, or a character like Cricket Green? Like,
Yeah.
is there, when you're digging into that character in order to find what's making funny, is there something that you find that's like the nugget of that character? Is there something that like you can keep going back to? You're like, oh, this is the comedy engine of this character. I know why this character is funny.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's the first key when you're looking at any page, any character, any movie, is you kind of go, what's this character's motivation? What's this character's drive? And look at like, okay, so how does this character react in certain situations? When we talk about process, we could talk about, I prepared to talk about a Big City Green board, but there's a character in there called Remy, who is, you look at it, when you analyze that character is this very sweet but spoiled little boy, like spoiled little rich kid who doesn't have a lot of life experience. He's very sheltered. And once you understand that, you go, okay, so what situation is Remy in? And how is he, like, what is an honest way for that character to react in that situation? And that's kind of the basis of finding something comedic. Or with Cricket Green, Cricket is a very over the top character. So what are moments where, what's unexpected for Cricket? For Cricket to be very serious. What's the moment that will really be, when will the humor be hit more by him playing towards type? And what moment could be hit more when he's playing against type?
Gotcha. So you want to go into that Remy board a little bit?
Yeah. So like I'm just gonna get straight into like the constructive stuff.
Sweet.
Yeah. I have a lot of background as a board-driven board artist, a lot of background, but some. And when you are a board-driven board artist, which means that you are a board artist who also is not fully handling script duties, but you are kind of punching up you are writing to help elevate the dialogue, the tone, and the character, both visually and through your writing and through, doing punch-ups. You'll often be given an outline, which kind of gives you the generic beat of what has to happen. So for example, when I first got onto Big City Greens, the first script I had to do was actually this gigantic episode, and I had to learn the characters very quickly, or learn the essence of the characters very quickly. Oh God, I just realized I should probably pitch this.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh man, I haven't pitched this in like 3 years. So, but
it's
I'm
in a very forgiving room here, I promise.
You guys, because I just realized I should practice pitching. But anyway, so in this scenario, the outline said, Remy steals himself and creates a distraction so Cricket can escape. It was like this big like heist and then action episode. And in this moment, Remy needed to create a distraction. And on the page, it didn't say what the distraction was. And as a board-driven board artist, that's my cue to go, okay, I got to figure out what the distraction is. And when I was thinking about that, I thought of a couple of things. First, I had to learn who Remy was. So everything I just said, sheltered rich kid, very sweet, little baby. Then I said, what's the situation? You remember that episode? Yeah. So that was my first one on Big City Greens. And you're going to recognize the part of pitch. But yeah, so second, I said, what's the scenario? So Remy, this character, is going to have to create a distraction in this very like tense situation. And there are going to be a lot of big bodyguards. And then I said, okay, so thank you, Trinity. I'm reading the chat. That's all. Whenever someone gives me praise, I'm going to stop and thank them. But in that scene, I said, okay, so if I was Remy, if I was playing Remy, if I was the actor, a lot of times I think about being the actor in a board or in writing. I go, what would be my honest reaction if I was that kind of kid? And I remembered when I would get lost as a kid. I remember one time when I was lost at a circus, which was terrifying for me. I remember I was scared and I wanted my mom, like I was a child and I just wanted help. And I found qualities of Remy that kind of I could match in my own experience. And I said, okay, so that's the specificity and the honesty of like, if this character was honestly like this little baby in a very tense scenario, first time having to deal with this, I'd be really scared. And so I said, okay, so then if we have that, that's unexpected for the scenario. If you want to create a distraction, instead you're really scared, that's something that's subverting the scenario already. And then the last part is the button of how will the guards react? And I think he would expect the guards to try to fight and punch. But what's the honest reaction when you see a little kid who's scared? You're going to want to help them, because they're a little baby. So now I guess I'm going to try to pitch the scene. What it turned out to be. I didn't practice this, so let's see how this goes. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we see. We see scene 193, panel 4.
Oh, amazing! Let's skip a little bit. Comedy is also singing songs. Let's see. Oh man, sorry, it really has been a while. Okay, so here we are. Oh my god, we really have not. Okay, so Chip goes, "Congrats, you." Oh, let's see if this works. "Congrats, you little scamps!" And the bodyguards come in. "Now, gimme." He wants the files, so he's like, "Gimme." "Cricket, you have to get out of here and get those logs to the mayor." "But what about you, Remy?" Oh, sorry, I'm not doing the voices because it's been 3 years. "I think the road ends here for me. Now go, Cricket." So Cricket goes off and Remy gets his steels up. "Goons A, B, and C, after the boy." "No goons A, B, and C. Stay." "What do you think you're doing?" Not Cricket. He doesn't know Cricket's name. That's the joke. Or Remy's name. "Gloria?" "I am Remy Remington, and you will remember my name. Because my daddy is probably calling it out, and I can't find him, and I'm really scared." "Oh no, poor little guy. Do you remember anything else about your papa?" We have a very brave boy looking for his papa over here. Repeat, the bravest, best boy. And look, I'm not saying that's a height of comedy, but I was proud of it.
But it also it takes an unexpected turn too, where he has a strong emotional turn. He's going to do the distraction. He's excited about it and very defiant about it, and then the quick turn into total vulnerability where he just becomes a little baby, and then it's very funny.
Exactly. And also with the guards too. What's the unexpected version of what is unexpected but very authentic and honest for a way for these like buff guards to act? And that's being very caring. And so from character specificity, you could get a lot of comedy. Oh, thank you. Trinity is really like over here. Thank you.
When you're reading a script, what pings for you for something that could be funny like that? How do you identify those little moments where you're like, okay, I see what's funny about this?
Yeah. So when I read a script, and right now I'm not on a boardroom show, right now I'm on a movie that has like a full script. And when I was doing boards for it, because now I'm not actually doing boards anymore for the time being, I would look at it and my first question is, what are the emotional tempos of this scene? It's actually always good to see what is this scene genuinely trying to tell? Because if everything is funny and high and like elevated humor in a scene, then nothing's funny. It's the Incredibles rule. You need something grounded. You need the straight man. You need the genuine emotion there. So first, I identify what are the parts that I need to sell genuinely. And I'm trying to think of an example here. Sorry. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I'll think of one. I'm trying to think in the board samples that I have. Oh, you know what? In the raft, in the Trolls World Tour raft scene, I knew that I had to get across genuinely that Branch was in love with Poppy, and that Hickory is really going to try to give him advice. So then once I figure out those tempos and what kind of needs to be sold genuinely, I look at the in-between a little bit and I go, well, what's a way that I could have fun in between these things? If Hickory has to be like strumming on a guitar first, what's fun? Or, oh shoot, I remember the example I wanted to give. In another Big City Greens episode, there was called Fast Foodie. There's a part where Cricket is stuck in a slide and his dad, Bill, has to talk him out and tell him it's okay. And I knew that Bill's line had to be genuine. I knew we had to sell the emotion of a genuine connection there and Cricket learning. But then I said, well, what's funny here? Cricket's stuck in a slide. He's also in that scene. He's gorged on so many burgers. He is very overweight. So he's really stuck in there. That's pretty funny. And then what's also a way to heighten the emotion? Cricket was an incredibly emotional character. So when he's sad, he's really sad. And I tried to really push the facial expressions there. Wait, I'm going to share real quick.
Yeah, do it.
I'm going to be a sharing machine. Okay, how am I going to do this? So I didn't pull this up. Hold on one sec. Actually, I'm just going to riff. I said, okay, well, I could heighten Cricket's emotions. So I pull this up. Oh, this was so quick. Never mind. I don't know what I was scared about. I found this. Also, Jim, I'm sorry I'm not talking about home. It's been a while, you know?
Oh, this is great. This is perfect. You have the examples for this. It's awesome.
Yeah, so here's Cricket. And I try to, classically draw him as grotesquely as possible, but I like drawing things grotesque anyway, regardless. But here we go. This is a scene. Not all of it made it in, but Cricket's realizing that he could die by being stuck in this slide. We're gonna get going. When Cricket learns the lesson, I said, well, how can we hide that emotion? Because no matter what, Cricket's gonna be sad and he's gonna learn his lesson. And the best way for him to be sad in my eyes is to make a really grotesque face. That's why I pulled this up, just to show that grotesque face. Mm-hmm. But then everything in between, does Bill get stuck too? Because Bill would also not be able as an adult man to fit in the slide. Boy, I don't know, in between, when you hit those emotional highs and you figure out what's genuine that could stay grounded, then you give yourself room for a lot of fun.
I think you also identified something specific about Cricket's character here in that he's in a physically, an actual low stakes situation. Like he will be okay. He's not in actual physical danger. He's not gonna actually die in that thing. But and the audience knows that. The audience knows that he's going to be safe. But because he's treating it like such a high stakes situation, and he's panicking and he's being so emotional about it to the point where he's imagining his own death and his own scenarios, like that seems like it's playing on the ridiculous, and that's honest for him as a character.
It is, because, in his mind, at that moment, if you were presently in his mind, it is high stakes. But you're right that by having like the dramatic irony of like, he's going to get out of there, you're actually able to have more fun. Where if he was stuck in, I don't know, like in Star Wars, like the room that kind of a compacting room or something, if there was some real danger to it, you want to play that genuine, because that's a moment where you could, because the stakes are so high and we know the stakes are so high and we could feel that, you want to play that genuinely. So when he gets out, then you can have a punchline. Then you could go, oh, now that we know that things are safe and that we've felt that emotion, we're going to have more catharsis.
And it's interesting that the last shot that I saw in that sequence was a wide shot where you see the two of them are both stuck in there, which is like the audience's viewpoint going into that sequence is that that everything is going to be okay and that everything is safe. But you're playing most of the drama and most of the comedy for Cricket and for Bill inside the tube so that the audience is with them emotionally, but then you cut out to reveal that they're both stuck in the tube and it's the audience's emotional and physical point of view of this whole situation, which is you get like a bit of a laugh from there.
Boy, Jim, I don't know why you're not giving this talk. That was great.
No, I'm trying to facilitate, trying to yes and.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's so many different I'm talking very basic, like the basic parts that you need, but there's so many different elements to play with: perspective, reactions from others, stakes, timing is big. There's so much that you could play with in order to, I mean, again, I think if you're going to really drill it down to the bone, I think, which is not a phrase, I think it's contrast, it's subversion, it's I think it's contrast. If we're tied in and we've been with their perspectives for a while, outside perspective, oh, now I remember, they're just stuck in a slide. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask too, because as you were on the verge of breaking in, like coming into home and like taking story tests and whatnot, you were doing a lot of personal comics as well, which were really, really funny. And I know like they've probably slowed down a little bit just because your schedule has been a nightmare. Yeah. Like, and your comics are from a point of view that you star in. And I think that was, I think it's awesome because you know your point of view and you are vulnerable enough to be funny in those comics. How did you identify those things that you could use for yourself for comics, or how did you identify those? What's the ideation process, I guess, basically for coming up with a comic?
I mean, I wish I knew that better because I'm not making much right now. A lot of it really was that, a lot of it is really what you find funny. And like, something that maybe feels ironic, something that feels a little silly, something that feels very specific to you. A big problem I had with those comics is that a lot that they are all from my point of view. And I only think about a couple of things, which is my gluten intolerance and how much I'm working. So because of that, they could get a little repetitious, but like to talk about the gluten intolerance one, I remember I did one about like, finally, it had been on my mind a while of like, this is my thought process for that was like, it's really stupid how I have a gluten sensitivity, but I will still eat gluten. That's it. That was it. Like how dumb that what I am doing right now. I keep saying how dumb, but like really what you would expect me to do is not eat gluten. I will. Oh my God, there it is. Oh, Facebook.
I know it's the first one that came up when I Googled Faryn Draws Comics. I'll find the Instagram link.
Yeah, I think the Instagram might be more, well, there's a lot of good ones on Facebook. Those are older, but what, you know, with that one, the comic is then just a heightening of that. I don't think my comics would, I wouldn't say my comics are true to life, because it really is for that one. It's like me talking to a friend, hunched over a table as I get more and more sickly and as I keep eating like pizza and cake. And while that's not exactly how the scenario is in real life, like I do stop at some point, stop eating at some point. That's how I was feeling. It's a heightening of how I was feeling. And by heightening, I mean, I know what my emotion is, which is sickness. And I go, well, let's get more and more sick. And I know what I would eat, which is like a piece of cake. And I say, oh, let's eat more and more cake.
And the interesting thing about that is you have that outside perspective on yourself.
Yeah.
And how, I mean, besides therapy, and maybe that's the answer, and because that's the answer for me as well, how did you cultivate that outside perspective on yourself?
Oh man.
I know we're getting to like Pete Holmes, you made it weird territory, and I apologize for that, but I feel like that's such an important thing.
Judgmental of myself. Yeah, I think it's, yeah, I don't know. It's, you know, I had a lot of, with those comics, the reason I started with comics as opposed to like, you know, animating or something is I used to read a lot of Sunday morning comics. I say Sunday morning comics, but like, you know, the comics that you would see in the newspaper. I loved Kathy because Kathy liked me like chocolate cake. But I really did, I when I was reading web comics, I really connected with the people who felt like they had a story to tell in their life, because I always felt like I had a story to tell, even if it was something very, very small. Yeah, I think it more comes from an influence of, I think I also wanted to have a diary. Oh, well, I don't know. My genuine answer is I always wanted to have a diary a little bit. And it didn't seem fun not to have a diary that was constructed in a fun way. If that makes sense. Like I like story, like,
yeah, it's also fun if it's no fun if nobody else gets to see it. It doesn't feel like it has a purpose.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how I feel. But
yeah, but it was I kind of yearn for the days where it was genuine without putting it online, because I've been in comics since I was a wee little ass. And then but then the other one, oh, I was gonna say something funny and now I lost it. Oh wow. Wait, what was I saying? Comics, funny stuff. Oh, I'm obsessed with myself.
Oh, okay. How do you cultivate that?
Oh man, you look in the mirror every day and you go, you wonderful son of a bitch.
So, and we talked about it. It is tough to cultivate that outside perspective on yourself and to figure out like what is funny about yourself. Do you have any like? Do you have any relationships or do you have anybody that helps you out with that outside view of yourself, or with an outside view of the scene?
People who remind me what I'm really like. No, I mean, I actually think it's funny because while I've done it for a very long time, I've always thought that I never came up with the perfect process for my comics, because it is really hard to look outside yourself. It's so much easier to write jokes and stories about characters who you can really observe from the outside. Like I just said, for me, that like I kind of got, you know, I do kind of think about some of the same topics all the time, like exercise and like pretty shallow stuff, honestly. But you know, right now I'm truthfully, I do have trouble coming up with comics where I am currently, because one, my day-to-day since the pandemic has looked very similar to every other day. So because of that, for me, you know, I've only can make so many observations about how I act in certain situations. And then two, it used to be like relatable content, and now I'm in like a co-director position, which doesn't even feel relatable to me. So
that's fair.
Yeah. So I think for that reason, like it really is so much easier. It's like I used to do improv, and long form improv, which is when you do a full scene, was always so freeing and wonderful. And part of it was that there was such a clarity, you get such a clarity of what your character's internal game or pattern of thinking was. And because you are on the outside, it's easier to kind of come up with jokes. It kind of think about how they would act in a situation. But when it's yourself, I think it's okay that that you don't have the objective point of view. It does make it harder, but
Can you talk a little bit about how improv has influenced your comedy, or how it's helped you in life?
I mean, I just talked to Ariani earlier today about it, but I was really big into improv comedy in college. And frankly, it was one of the best things I ever did for myself, because before college, I was actually pretty internal. Like, again, I thought I was funny. According to Derek Clay, I wasn't, but I always, yeah. Oh, throw out questions. Yeah.
Oh, that's Derek Clary is the person that.
Yeah, he was the guy. He was the guy. He's doing great. He seems like a wonderful family.
But if anybody wants to hunt him down, feel free.
Don't do that.
Sorry.
You wouldn't remember me. But I was always very internal. What improv comedy did in a lot of different ways was, one, told me about how to look for patterns in character behavior, which I think is really important when it comes to writing. It too taught me how to like kind of be outside my head and to relax and kind of say the first thing that came to me, which often could have been like, gave me a little bit more fearlessness. I don't have a ton of fearlessness, but I'm, in that way, I think a lot of comedy is just going for it, and saying what you think is funny and seeing if others do too. And
being
then
honest and vulnerable with yourself.
Honest and vulnerable with yourself, yeah. And then I don't know, it made me better collaboration too. Yes, anding when it finding, one of the biggest things I learned as a co-director, and that I've been learning truly, is how much every role in a movie or a TV show, how much every part has its place and works together as like a big unit. There's like a Lion King lion I'm thinking of, but it really is like you kind of get to look outside and go, oh wow, everyone has their part. And what we all need to, like, the best version of a production is where everyone sees what the other people are doing and goes, I see what they're doing. Yes, I see what they're doing, and I have something to add. And that's a basic rule of improv, is yes and. But I think it's so helpful with collaboration. I think it's so helpful with writing, with coming off a script, with acting. Okay, yes, Cricket needs to be sad, and he is stuck in a slide and his face is all pushed up. So yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. So
yeah.
when you were learning to board, because boarding is it's unlike improv or unlike stand-up comedy. The feedback in improv or stand-up comedy is very instant, and so you can iterate very quickly and figure out what the audience was thinking at any moment, and then you can subvert it, because you can literally see somebody's face, or you can hear a laugh, or you can hear the silence, and then that joke didn't land, and then you can make a joke about how it didn't land. But boarding is such a labor intensive process where you have to do a lot of work just to lead the audience to think something and then subverting it. How did you learn to understand where and how to lead the audience to a conclusion so that you could subvert it? Like, how did you get that feedback? How did you learn what you were saying with your panels?
Okay. Yeah. I think some of it came from experience. And I don't just mean like boarding experience. I mean just like life experience. Like, again, going back to like authenticity, like honesty of like, I know in an honest situation, like Remy would be scared, and if that help, if people like that, or like if the bodyguards are drawn to that, that's funny. So some of it comes from outside experience, some of it comes from inside experience and inside confidence a little bit. And I don't think I'm a very confident person at all. I reek insecurity. But you just smell it on me. It's my perfume. But you do have to just kind of go with your gut, which I heard like your gut is actually just your experience in your back of your head telling you what usually works and what doesn't. But you just go with your gut of like, I think this is funny. And then the third thing, I think a lot of it is also consuming media and humor and books, and thinking about, well, what's funny there when you laugh at something, thinking about, oh man, that made me laugh, and trying to break down, like, why did that make me laugh? What was funny about that scenario? So much of being a good board artist is about referencing, I think, and knowing and having a large pool of references. So yeah, a lot of it is like I like watching Whose Line Is It Anyway reruns on HBO Max. I just saw Don't Look Up, which I thought was very funny, and I thought a lot about like why that was funny, and a lot of it is heightened stakes and silly low stakes characters combined, things like that.
So how do you break down, like, I feel like when I was learning comedy, and I found it very hard to know and break down why something was funny, but then eventually through the other conversations, like started being able to articulate it. How did you learn how to identify and articulate what is funny about a specific scenario, or why I laughed at this specific scenario?
Oh man, well, that's the part I kind of struggle with, is putting into words, because I think so much of it is a little abstract and is a little subjective, even though there is an actual science to it. I mean, one of the most illuminating things that you could look up on Spotify, which we shouldn't be using, I guess, but it's really helpful, is there is a Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, if you've heard of that show. Season 1, they have they have a soundtrack that comes with commentary of each song, and that has been one of the most analytical comedic references I've ever seen, because like for them, and I'm talking a little outside myself here, but when you're doing like genre parody, you have to what they focused on was getting the beats of something and really getting the feeling and really matching the tone, and then figuring out the joke within it. And that's a really good that's a really good reference. That's helped me of thinking like, okay, so much a comedy has to do. I'm just repeating myself here. I don't know why you guys came for an hour-long talk. It really was okay. For them, a lot of it is just making sure what has to be honest and what has to ground and what has to be relatable and connect with someone. And that way having fun in between. And when you have fun in between, people will understand like, oh, that deviates from what I expected. God, I feel like a lot of comedy, when you break it down, really is that. And there might be more to it. It's just hard to articulate a little bit. I'm so sorry.
It's also it seems like it's so specific to the situation too.
Yeah, it is very specific, because that's like song parody. But in that case, that really helped me out on when I boarded. I keep doing Big City Greens today, but I think that is a very purely comedic show. I did an episode where it was a lot of genre parodies, or like kind of music parodies. And a lot of that, when I thought about how do I break down what's funny about like a certain kind of song, was watching the song, thinking about what I thought was funny, kind of thinking about, well, how do I make it sound like what is authentic to the song? What are the structural parts of it that like a pop song. I did like a pop rap, which we could play, but I don't think we really need to. It's just a genre parody, but I need to get that structure right, because then when I deviate from it, people will know, oh, that's funny. And then I also have to get the characters in there. I think it is a breakdown of like a breakdown where you just see what do I need? What's grounding this? What's relatable and true and honest? And then what can I subvert it with?
Interesting.
Again. It's just, I'm just saying the same old bits.
But it's using it seems like you have some sort of solid base. Like if you're doing a rap video, like doing a rap video with children is just a slightly funny concept, because they're taking it so seriously.
Absolutely. And like in that one, Remy again does a rap where he like, it's a pop song and it has like kind of the rap bridge. And in a rap bridge, I'm like, okay, a lot of times they're like dunking on things, and they're being the yes man. So if the song was about don't think, I said, what's the funniest way for Remy to be a yes man? Well, for Remy specifically, first would be being very genuine about it, and really, you're being a little bit more specific with the language. You're being a little, more brutal with the language. So he's talking about don't think, yeah, public education's a joke. He's starting there, and then he start going like the system's dumb. like parents are dumb. And then he's like, oh God, if I say parents are dumb, then I have to leave the parents behind, and he loves his parents. And then kind of going, what if the person in the rap starts having second thoughts about what he's yes manning, became kind of the structure. So you're right. It's all from the same base, because from there, once you get specific about every element, it's kind of just like do the opposite.
Turn it always. Once you've established one thing and you've led the audience to understand what you're doing, you flip it again.
Exactly. And also knowing what things have to stay stable.
So a question from Value.
Yeah.
Are you ever satisfied with a comedic approach to storyboarding, or do you brainstorm multiple scenarios? You're like a scene to go, like,
yeah, sometimes
you get analysis paralysis where it's like, oh shit, I got 8 different ways that I could go. Which one should I go?
It's funny because I think in almost every, like, there's always a section where in my mind I go, yes, I know exactly the funniest thing to do there, the funniest thing to me, and I can't think of anything better. And then there will always also be a part of a script where I go, I have no idea what to do, and I will never have any idea what to do. And I think the key there is, one, do the one that you think is funny, obviously, but with that second one is really, that's when you really break down, okay, God, what's the funny feeling here? And what are a couple different ways to go about the funny feeling? Often those are the ones where, like, often the time maybe I could go, that could be better, are the times where maybe it's, I don't know, when it's more multiple choice. I don't know. Yeah. And I have a couple of different techniques I could use there, including one to talk about, because I think you prepped me with the question of, like, do you have any actual, like, constructive advice? But often when I get stuck on, like, what's the funniest thing here, and I kind of know the guidelines of what could be funny, like, if I'm just going to talk tons about Remy today, but, or like if Poppy needs to, let's see, what's a good example here? Or let's do Remy again. If Remy needs to distract a guard and I didn't know what to do there, what I often do is set myself a timer. I love timers. Set myself a timer for usually 1 or 2 minutes, and I just write down as many possibilities as possible. So I go, what are ways that he could distract a guard? And I know that he has to be, I know that I want him to be a little kid. 1, he gets out candy. 2, and I just try to go as quick as possible and not think about it. Just write as many possibilities as possible. And I think that way it gets me kind of out of my comfort zone, out of what I was thinking at first. And often, usually in the first 3 ideas, I find something that I think is good.
Do you pitch those to somebody else? How do you choose one? Do you show them to somebody else? Do you like, hey, or do you just kind of go on instinct?
I think normally I go on instinct just because of the nature of the job. But if there's a person there, absolutely, it's so helpful to get a second ear. Yeah.
And just bounce it off of them.
Just bounce it up and be like,
if they have a funnier idea.
Like, I'm between 2 things. What do you think is funnier? And have someone go, now in the pandemic, it's my boyfriend and only my boyfriend, the only person I ever get to see in my life. And he will tell me which one he thinks is funnier. And it's funny because if he does that and I agree, easy. But if there's something in my gut that says, you know what, I think there's more possibility in the second one, go with the second one. Clarifies it for you.
So have you, and obviously as you're directing and as you've gotten into leadership positions, you've had to give notes, which I find terrifying. I find giving notes absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
What kind of things do you find yourself, what kind of pieces of advice do you find yourself continually giving when you're looking and critiquing funny works or funny words?
Yeah. Oftentimes there's a real rhythm to jokes where, set up punchline, or like set up punchline. There's a real feeling that you can have to a joke. And when you recognize that, it really, my question often is, are we hitting that punchline hard enough? Is there a funnier, if we have the rhythm right, if the rhythm is there and you could see that, one, push it out. If it feels like that's a moment for a joke, if the character is doing something I want to use another word because I've said unexpected a million times. If a character is doing something a little weird, something that's like a little abnormal, let's push that farther. I want to give an example from my current job. I should not. So oh man, I have such a good example for my current job. Dang. But if a character is like, if Tip Tucci from Home as a different example. If Tip from Home is, you know, she's really like if she's really highly confident and she's like walking around and she's having a latte and like people are helping her out. Like if I looked at that board, what I would say is like, okay, wait, that's really funny that right now she's so confident that people are kind of acting like, you know, like she's a queen and she's servant. How can we push that? How can we make that? How can we really go higher with the idea? Like, does she drink the latte, like spit it out and go milk, and just like a hand comes out and like gives her milk from the side? Or, you know, does she hand off the latte, clap, and say another, like the classic Thor joke? Like when you recognize those patterns and like, oh, I could tell this is supposed to be a joke, and either it's not working or it could work better. Let's try to let's try to find a funnier solution that plays on the same idea.
Okay, that's cool. And do you mind if I talk personal experience just for a minute and see if it unlocks more conversation too?
Yeah.
So I liken especially good physical gags like magic tricks. And if you watch a stage magician, they are leading you to a conclusion. So for instance, like a stage magician will pull up a raw egg and will shake it a little bit and was showing the audience, this is an egg, this behaves normally like an egg, you see, it has the weight. And then will like gesture to the table below them, and you know that a table is hard generally. It has, you know, it has specific properties where, you know, if you dropped the egg, it would crush. So he shakes the egg and then shows the table, and then puts the egg on the table, and you know how that system works. You know the table is hard and an egg is breakable. So if the magician were to take his hand or take their hand and smash the egg, you know what would happen. The egg would go all over the table. Takes a tissue, just a regular old tissue, and we'll show it to the audience, and we'll, you know, make it float a little bit, show that it's light, show that it's fluffy. It's a normal tissue. We'll put it over the egg. So now you have tissue, egg, table system. And you know how that's supposed to behave. So then the stage magician will do an action that will lead the audience to a conclusion. They know how this system is supposed to work. If they take their hand and boom, smash the tissue and the egg against the table, the audience is expecting that the egg is smashed. But when they pull up the tissue, boom, it's a dove. And so the stage magician has done a lot of work to subvert your expectations, to see like normal egg, hard table, regular tissue, and knows to drive the audience to what should happen and then constantly subverts it. And what I find myself when I'm looking at student work is communicating to the student what their boards are saying, or what their panels are leading me to think as an audience member in various points. Like, how am I feeling about Tip in this moment? Oh, you are showing me that she's confident, but you haven't yet shown me that she is overconfident. And that's where it seems like the joke is.
Yeah, that's great. Because you are saying like, essentially, like, we know, you know, you're saying this about like factual properties, like my phone, my phone is this shape, or like my tea is hot. And you're saying, and like when you bring that to boards, you're saying that about a lot of different things. You're saying like the character acts like this. The genre that we're doing, if we're going to do a Western one, the genre is this. The audience is always bringing in expectations. And I mean, yeah, in the end, any kind of comedy, you're doing this to kind of throw off their expectations. You're leading them one way and going, well, you know, we're going to surprise you.
So like, for instance, if it's a Western, like you said, like this, you are anticipating that the characters are going to be serious and the stakes are life and death.
Yes.
And if the audience comes in with that expectations, you got something to subvert immediately.
And how do you set that up? You do it very honestly, where you kind of have like do, and you kind of see tumbleweed and people closing the windows, and then, you know, the sheriff comes out and they go, anyone have a bathroom? That wasn't. Oh, thank you for laughing. That means nice. But like, That's exactly it. It's like you set it up, you kind of do something honest and genuine. And I really think the other, like, other than subverting, the thing I really want to emphasize is that there's no comedy without honesty. And there's no comedy without genuine pull, not just to like, yeah. Oh wait, could you clarify?
Oh, I was just asking. Sorry, I tried not to distract you. I was trying to.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, there's no, if you are not being, if the world that you're presenting is a big wacko, like cartoon world, it's actually going to be harder to make someone laugh. You really always want to, I think personally that you want to have a base of realism. So that way, even if it's like a fantasy, even if it's Animaniacs or something, you always want to have a base of honest emotion or honest expectations that you could give the audience. So that way, when you subvert them, when you push past them, when you do something big and bold and funny, or even something small and subtle and funny, which is like in Adventure Time a lot, then you're gonna get a little laugh.
Like Who Framed Roger Rabbit doesn't work without Bob Haskins. He's the emotional root.
And it doesn't also work without, part of the funny part of it is like you expect them to be cartoon characters and then they have real life emotions, that Jessica Rabbit acts like femme fatale and she's aware of it, and and that you think they're going to have like a very adult relationship, but they play real patty cake.
Has your approach to comedy changed since you've been directing versus boarding?
Yes, I as a board artist, you have a lot more control, and you have a lot more time to really think about how a scene will work. So in a lot of ways, I'm looking at tons of things all day, and there's a part of me that really that in an ideal world, I would really take some time to look at the script and think about what are the beats I would look for in each scene. And as a director, you don't really have that luxury of time. You do in the evenings, but you're gonna have work-life boundaries. But I think when I'm watching it, I try to put myself in the place of the audience and go and try to feel like, and I'm trying to get better at this. Honestly, this is a little bit of the new part of the job for me, is watching it as an audience member a little bit and going, oh, I could feel myself wanting to laugh there. That probably means that that's a joke, How do we do that? Jim, should we do some questions? How long is this?
Yeah. No, I threw in a couple of questions there. Those are questions from the audience.
You were just ignoring everyone. I'm like, I see this chat bubble and you're being so selfish.
No, I'm just trying to smooth it in. Here we go. If you could break down, okay, I see what Michelle was saying. If you could break down just one of your examples of Big City Greens, or one of your other sequences, if you could just break it down and talk about how you identified the funny in there, and then maybe pitch it again.
Okay, so
I just want to put you on stage to pitch again because I thought that was fun.
Here, I want to talk about a little bit before we run out of time, the one that you picked out for my portfolio, the Trolls marketing. Which is probably the wild card of my portfolio deck I gave you. What was the question again?
Like you did for the Big City Greens board, where you're talking about Remy, or we talk about Remy's character and identifying what's funny about that, and what's funny about Cricket's character, and what's funny about the scenario. If you could break down another example of that, of what you identified and how you played that out.
Okay, so this is a great time for the Trolls World Tour one. So when I was on Trolls World Tour, I was on that for I was one of the main 5 board artists. Like there were 5 of us who really worked on it the whole time from beginning. And then after the end, there was a brief period of time where they were trying to figure out how they were going to market it, and like if they were going to do any big cross promotional stuff. And that was a moment where they said, look, we're going to let you guys blue sky. You could do whatever you want, but here's your requirement. It's going to be Trolls meet any of like the NBCU human talk shows. And that's a wild assignment. That's crazy, because they were like, we want to put Trolls on Jimmy Fallon. And I'm pretty sure I could show you this, because I don't think this is ever going to see the light of day. But that was the pitch. Like there was no outline. It was just go. And for me, I said, okay, that's crazy. This is a crazy concept. So I'm going to lean into the crazy. 2, I don't understand this concept. So these were truly wild and would never be used. But when I was thinking about what's funny, I said, okay, well, let's think about what I do know, which is Poppy. So Poppy is this super enthusiastic, friendly. She's always positive. And when I did research about like Jimmy Fallon, like a couple of his sketches, because they were saying like, yeah, you should integrate it with like Jimmy Fallon's characters. I found one that I don't watch the Jimmy Fallon late night show a lot, but there's one where it's a character who's like a teenage girl and her catchphrase is ew. And I said, well, that's a funny contrast. If you have this character who kind of hates everything and this character Poppy who kind of loves everything, putting them together on that sketch segment would be very funny. And within it, then it was finding, like, it was kind of acting like it was a regular board. When I was writing it, I went, okay, so let's know first that character does a specific game where they do like quick ews or something, like, and what's a funny thing? Well, Poppy's always going to think everything's positive, and finding the structure within, you know, within the game itself helped me out. So then I could go, okay, if they play if these two characters are going to meet, hopefully that's funny. Or, you know, these two characters are going to meet, they're going to be opposites, they're going to play this game that is always played, structural and playing with expectations. When you watch this sketch on the Jimmy Fallon show, I say the Jimmy Fallon show, I know it's called late night, but when you watch this sketch on late night, you're going to have expectations of how it usually will go, and Poppy will upend it by being herself. And I guess I'm going to try to pitch it for you.
Yeah, hell yeah, go for it.
Okay, let me pull it up real quick. Okay, give me one sec. Marketing. This is, yeah, when Jim saw these words, Jim, did you think they were good?
I did. I thought they were awesome. It was really funny, because also it was very apparent why we never saw any trolls marketing on Jimmy Fallon, but not only because it was such a bonkers idea. And I'm like, wow, this would have been hilarious. And it's also, I think it's more hilarious as a board than it probably would have been in real life, because you probably can't get Jimmy Fallon to interact with a CG character very well. So seeing the boards was fucking hilarious, because also it was even playing on the idea of what marketing should actually be like. And
wasn't it also playing on the expectation of all the other boards I gave you were from legitimate projects, and then here was this one. So there you go. Everything, it fits. Everything.
There were like 3 levels of expectation, which was cool.
Okay, well, let's see if I could pitch this. I realized that some of the dialogue was missing on this one, so I'm going to try to remember what it was, but I think I do. Okay, so this is called Ew. That's my handwriting, by the way. Okay, so here's the segment title, Ew, and they're kind of bumps. And I gotta make this a little smaller. Sorry. Here we go. I drew googly eyes on everyone so that I could get them to emote the way I wanted to. So thank God I don't have real like Bruce Almighty powers, but here we go. This is Sarah, Jimmy Fallon's character. So hi everyone, and welcome to Ew, the show. Something ew. To join me is, sorry, some of the dialogue's missing. I'm gonna try my best. Joining me today is a very special, very cute new bestie, Queen Poppy. Hi Sarah, I'm excited to be here, as you should be. All right, so now we're gonna play a game called like Quick Ews or something like that. It's like some speed round. Okay, where you tell me what you think of things, but really quickly. Pew, pew, pew. Very cool mouth sounds. Okay, here we go. Broccoli, delicious. Ew. Do you really think that? Yeah, they're like little toddler trees. No, Poppy, you're supposed to say ew. Next, math. Interesting. What? No. Math is not interesting. It's the grossest thing in the world, or something like that. Okay, next, mini golf. Fun. Fanny packs, functional. Chores, important. Rollerblades, funky. Carrot top, probably a nice guy. No, Poppy, they're all ew, and you're supposed to say ew. Know what I think is ew? Your attitude. Kidding. How dare you? That was it.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Sorry, all the dialogue was in there, but
because it plays on so many expectations. It plays on the expectations of Jimmy Fallon's character. It plays on the expectations of what marketing is. It plays on the expectations of how of
it plays on the expectations of what marketing is.
that's the funniest one. That's hilarious.
I did not understand what the assignment was. I was like, what does this look like? I don't know.
I think, and it's great, but I think that like that would have been, I think it would have been more hilarious and it worked as marketing if they had just animated your boards and, you know, and gone to CGI Poppy, because then it even plays on like the fact that this thing is in the world and it exists as part of NBCU marketing. And like, oh my God, this is hilarious because there's like this.
Thank you. I just saw from value to everyone that the expressions were hilarious too. I would say for me, when I'm drawing, something I really try to hit is specificity and expressions. I think when you are a board artist and you can make a funny expression at the right moment, not all the time, you always want to have like a middle ground, again, because you always want something grounded and stable and relatable. But then when you make a funny expression and one that's specific and can really show the emotion, I find that always helps. Even in my comics, that was always a big deal for me. But.
And in the thing you just pitched too, the Poppy's line, little toddler trees, is hilarious because it is so specific that it seems like she was hunting a little bit for something nice to say about broccoli and got very specific. And little toddler trees is just a very good phrase because it is super duper specific.
Thank you.
So Cherry asked, so you said that comedy either comes from something expected towards type or unexpected in an unexpected situation against type. Do you have any advice on when you would choose one versus the other? How do you identify what's the funnier way to play a situation?
Yeah, easily, actually. It is whether the situation is weird or whether the character is going to act weird. So if the situation is weird, this isn't any of my boards, but I would say I think most people know The Office pretty well. But if you think about any of the characters, like they have very specific traits. And that's something The Office has done so well, is that they really have, if you took away, like on the script, the character names, you would know which character is talking, which is a really good way to test, are you being specific enough with your character dialogue? But if you took like Stanley, who's very, who doesn't like to have fun at all, and you put him in a roller skating rink, I feel like like even when I said that, you could figure out like, oh, I could see where the fun is, because his character is going to stay the same, but he's in a situation that's unexpected for his character. But when they're like, when characters are talking in a normal situation, you probably want to play Stanley. Is Stanley one of them? Is Stanley the one who's like, he's always playing Sudoku?
Stanley Hudson? Yeah.
Yeah, Stanley Hudson. He's
kind of deadpan, kind of flat-faced.
Yeah, from The Office. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it depends. Is the situation unusual for this character, or is this character? Did Stanley get? I remember Pretzel Day. How does Stanley react to Pretzel Day? It's very funny in that moment because he's so excited for it.
Mm-hmm. So and he's not excited about anything. His type is that he's not excited.
So actually, I said very easy, but I think it depends on where do you think the joke is, a little bit.
When you're going through it, something like the marketing that you just did, how do you figure out what the expressions are for the characters?
Like the facial expressions?
Yeah, just the facial expressions.
Oh yeah. Okay. Wait, actually I'll present again because that might be easier to show with visuals. I can't find it. Hold on one second. Did I close it? Hold on one second. That's not it. Oh, here it is. Okay. Now I have to present it. Wow, if this isn't what Zoom like meetings with me is like. Work. Okay. Man, I don't know. So here, this is like when I figure out the questions, I know that Sarah, Jimmy Fallon's character, is going big, and Poppy, when she's listening to how much Sarah hates stuff, you actually want her to be pretty neutral. You want her to be the relatable one. I think you're thinking about who are you trying to get, who is the audience reactor in this scene? Like who is representing the audience? So here I want it to be kind of small, even though she's showing like, oh man, I'm really weirded out by this character, which is how I would feel about that character. And then when Poppy's having her fun, over here, important, you want to think about, well, what's the character acting and expression that really emphasizes like the feeling here, or the feeling that Poppy's trying to do, or the feeling of the joke. So like, they're going through a lot of them. Fun, golf is fun. Fanny packs are functional. You really want to be when I was thinking about the rhythm of the scene, you kind of want to go functional. You really want to kind of bring yourself into a very informative place. So that would influence the expression, the acting a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Chores, important. You're being a little more condescending, maybe a little bit more. I'm going to tell you, I acted out a lot. I always keep a mirror by my desk.
I think that's key. I think that's like a key piece of advice right there.
Absolutely. I've been told, and I think everyone, like, I don't think it's just me. I've been told that my characters act a lot like me, and that's because so funky. I was like, well, what's a funk? Like, we're playing with, we're changing the emotion with each time we're doing a moment. So what's a funky expression? I dance with my shoulders, so funky. Carrot Top, you want to keep that normal because Carrot Top's a weird thing. What a dated reference at this point. This would never go through. Yeah.
He still has an engagement in Vegas. He's still relevant.
Yeah, here, this is one that I didn't pitch, but when you want to push this is one with the view. I wanted Poppy to be really happy and really over the top excited because she loves opinions. She would love being on The View. That was the joke. Is they're like, Poppy, what do you think? And she goes, I love it. I love that thought. And I love that thought. I love all these thoughts. I really wanted to push the energy as much as I could. And on this final one, what's a fun way to push that energy? What's an unexpected way to push that energy? More aggressive. So that's the down expression. So yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, unless anybody has some last minute questions, I think this is it. Awesome. Thank you, Faryn, so much for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for everything. Anything you want to plug besides just being Faryn?
Oh man, well, see my movie if it comes out. Oh wait, I want to read the chat real quick, see if I missed anything because I haven't been able to read them.
A lot of praise, but
a lot of no. Jimmy Fallon's team has not reached out to me. Thank you guys. He loves Pretzel Day. He really does. I can't really see much. Yeah, see my movie if it comes out. Be good people. This pandemic has sucked. Go to therapy.
That's a good last piece of advice to follow or to end on. Awesome. Thank you everybody for coming. Thanks everybody. And follow the Story Mentorship and Twitter account for more of these. I think we have one with Nick Paris coming up. I think I'm going to do one on pitching. I think we might have one of the directors of maybe Rugrats coming in. We'll see. I'm trying to have a super special guest, a show creator, come on and talk about creating a show and developing and pitching. So we will see if that one clicks. So awesome. Thank you, Faryn, so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you everyone for coming.
Yep. And see everybody. Have a good rest of the weekend. Have a good long weekend. Bye.